need to remember that the Bible is written from an observer perspective. So there are times when it appears, say, God is angry with Israel and he's going to wipe Israel out. And then Moses goes and prays and apparently changes God's mind from our perspective, right?
If God knows everything, then why does he get angry? Why does he react with emotion to something he already foresaw? That is what this student asked Frank Turek, and Turek responds with the story where Moses is pleading with God not to wipe out the Israelites because of the worship of the golden calf. Did Moses change God's mind here? Let us talk about one of the most misunderstood verses in the Old Testament.
Yes, sir. What's your name?
Caleb.
Hey, Caleb, how are you?
Gentleman who asked the son question is my dad.
Oh.
Cliff over there.
Hey, Dad. How you doing?
So obviously he's a Christian, and I'm not quite sure what I am. I've had a constant kind of struggle my whole life with what I believe, but so I'm not well versed in or chaptered in the Bible. My question was, there's, I believe, several times in the Bible where it seems like God gets legitimately angry at people at some point over slaves with the plague. And kind of along the lines of a previous question, if he knows what's going to happen and he's an all-loving being, is this like pure emotional anger? Or, I mean, he should have expected it, so is it
excellent
just
question.
unemotional reaction? Or
Yeah, it's an excellent question, Caleb. We need to remember, you stay there because we may interact a little bit. We need to remember that the Bible is written from an observer perspective. So there are times when it appears, say, God is angry with Israel and he's going to wipe Israel out. And then Moses goes and prays and apparently changes God's mind from our perspective, right? But in reality, what's going on is that God always knew that Moses would pray, and he always knew that he would relent based on what Moses had done. It's written from an observer perspective. And that's the way we do things as well. In fact, you read in the Bible that the sun rises and the sun sets. Well, we know it doesn't really do that, right? I mean, we know that we're spinning and we're going around the sun, and the sun isn't moving around us. We're going around the sun. And that's how the sun rises and sun sets. But if you go home tonight and you watch the news and you watch the weatherman on there, the meteorologist, Dr. So-and-so, will say sunrise tomorrow, 6:52. He doesn't say Earth rotation will become apparent at 6:52. We use observational language, and the Bible uses it the same way. So God is not changing, we're changing, and God is always angry with sin, and he's always pleased with trust in him. And what happens is we move from one aspect of God, wrath, when we're in sin, and then we move into grace when we trust in him for his free gift. It's like if you're riding a bike against the wind, you say the wind is against me. When you turn around and go the other way, you say the wind is for me. Who changed, the wind or you? You changed.
Our interpretation of his reaction.
Yes, the Bible's written from frequently an anthropomorphic perspective, our perspective, not necessarily God's.
I appreciate it.
All right, thank you so much, Caleb.
Alright guys, so did God change his mind? Now let's be honest. When you first read that story where God tells Moses, he's about to wipe out the Israelites, and then Moses pleads and God relents, it sounds like God changes his mind. But is that really what's going on? From where Moses stood, it looks like he persuaded God to change his mind. But from God's eternal vantage point, God already knew Moses would intercede, and that was part of the plan. Now, I personally think there's something deeper going on here, something beautiful. God is showing us that he wants to work through his creation. He's not showing weakness, he's showing relationship. Prayer isn't about informing God, it's about aligning with him. It's about us growing, trusting, and depending on him. And no, God doesn't change like we do. He doesn't learn new things. He's not surprised by human failure either, but he chooses to weave our prayers into his purposes. Why? Because it shapes us, and because it humbles us but glorifies him. Now think about this. If God acted without any interaction from us whatsoever, we'd become self-sufficient, proud, and maybe even forget him altogether. But by making prayer part of his plan, God invites us into the mystery of divine partnership. And yeah, it's mysterious. Like, why does healing sometimes come only after prayer or through the hands of a saint? You know, like you pray for someone to be cured from cancer, nothing happens. You go to some saint in a monastery, he prays over them, he lays his hands and they're healed. If God knew this person was going to be healed and he was going to heal them, why not heal them, when I prayed? These are mysteries. Like, why do some prayers seem unanswered until someone else intercedes? I don't have all the answers here, but what I do know is what scripture says, that the prayer of a righteous person is powerful and effective. So did God change his mind here? No, but he did show us that he hears us, he responds, and he invites us into his work, not because he needs us, but because he loves us.